5 common tarot mistakes and how to correct them. Okay, so before y'all get so excited, let's be clear. There really aren't any tarot mistakes. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is a paper cut, right? But there are certain things that if you know about them early and catch yourself, it'll quicken your tarot development, give you deeper readings, get you more confidence, and a bunch of other things. My name is Joe Monteleone. I'm a modern mystic, total misfit, and founder of the Tarot Mysticism Academy. I teach things that people really can't learn from books or YouTube videos, and then it changes your life and you jump into the wormhole and you never look back. But this video is going to be focused on my beginner and intermediate readers that want to just give better readings. So let's jump right in. The first mistake that a lot of people make when reading tarot is they repeat themselves. They'll draw a couple cards and they'll say the same exact message 10 different times, but in 10 different ways. And I'm going to tell you why that happens and why it's actually not a bad thing, but what you can do differently. So when you draw a card and you start speaking, that's already a good step, because when you start speaking, you're starting to connect to the message and your guides and your intuition and your understanding of the card and all of that. So it's good. You want to start talking. That's good. But the reason why you may be repeating yourself is because what you're doing is what I call you're straightening the straw. So when we give tarot readings, when we give intuitive readings and get intuitive messages or work psychically, or maybe even in some certain mediumistic capacities, what we're doing is we are bringing in information through our physical mind-body system, which is local, from a place which is non-local, or at least less local. And sometimes that information gets a little clogged or has to do a little ricochet, a little pinball machine down the line into our system. So when we're speaking and we continue speaking and repeating ourselves, we're kind of like finagling our brain, mind-body system to kind of receive the message more fluidly. It's like, imagine like there's a hose and you turn on the hose and nothing comes out because there's something clogged in there. Well, maybe if you like cranked up the water and pushed that blockage through and then it comes out, it's kind of the same thing. The more you speak, the more you get into the movement of it, the more you can kind of slip and follow the momentum of the intuitive messages. But what can you do instead? Well, instead of repeating yourself and saying the same thing a bunch of different times, what you can do is you can still finagle, you can still straighten the straw to get the juice. You can still like have that movement energetically, but it doesn't have to be so much through speech. You can actually do it through stillness and patience. And this really comes about through mindfulness and awareness. So when you kind of just sit with the divination, let it bubble up in your mind, speak it, and then don't be afraid to pause and just be present with what you're experiencing, feeling, sensing, however you access this information, the clairs, etc. Another way to kind of correct this or make this better is to speak, but allow yourself to explore. When you're speaking the message, sometimes it's good to have like a curious mode of delivery so that the information that comes out is interesting to you. And when you're curious about the message and when you stay open, you're actually opening yourself up for more possibility in terms of the thoughts that are passing through your mind, but also the messages in general. And that creates more diversity and just like a wider array of possible divinatory meanings that will likely help you get closer to that jaw-dropping moment, to that hit that we all love so much as tarot readers. Not that you need a jaw-dropping moment every moment, because tarot is not necessarily about that, but you know. Okay, mistake number 2 is stressing about book meanings and memorization. This is not so much a mistake as it is a step that you can move on from. Now, everyone and their grandma's got a book about tarot, and they're all good. I know many amazing tarot authors, and they're superb, and there's so much good stuff out there. But every book is going to be a little bit different, and sometimes people get confused because different books say different things. There's a lot of contradicting information out there. The reason why this is so is because book meanings are giving you information only on the lowest plane. So there's 3 planes when you're using tarot. There's the mechanical plane, there's the subtle causal plane, and then there's the mystical plane. In the mechanical plane, we look at cards and tarot as definitive divination and meanings and all of that. Now, some of those meanings can kind of be in the subtle causal plane, but I would say most of them are on the lower mechanical plane, which answers questions: what is going to happen to me? What does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? And it's a level of tarot and it's valuable, but it goes beyond that. The reason why so many books have different divinatory meanings is because the way that the subtle plane manifests on the lower plane is always different. Even though the tarot cards themselves, symbolically, archetypally, psychologically, and or energetically may be generally the same, though traditions may differ, the actual manifestations of those energies and patterns in meaning and in our interpretation will be different. And just for fun reference, if you're curious about those three planes, here's a map that details them. Here's the mechanical plane, the subtle causal, and the mystical plane. I also have on this diagram the Kabbalistic tree of life, some Neoplatonism, some Advaita Vedanta, and a few other things. You can actually download this and other free stuff at tarotmysticismacademy.com/ebooks. And if you really want to go up these planes and explore the depth of tarot and mysticism, you would want to explore the master curriculum with the Tarot Mysticism Academy, where I actually bring people through these planes through several different bodies of knowledge and practice. But let's move on to the third mistake and how you can solve it. The third mistake is something everybody goes through, me included and all of my students. It's our favorite friend, self-doubt, getting in your own way, fear, inner stuff. We all have some inner demon somewhere from some karmic thing in this life or another lifetime. You're not alone. We've all suffered somewhere, right? A lot of times people get in their own way when they're reading cards because they're either too attached to being good at it or too afraid of not being good at it. When the truth is, both of those are ego. Both of those is the ego trying to pinch reality into something that it's not. And when we do that, we're not being present. And when we're not being present, we're not bringing our awareness to the message. Now, the best way to get out of your own way, I have found, is actually through a little something called enthusiasm. Yes, when you're enthusiastic, when you're excited about something, what happens is your focus goes away from yourself and into the object of your excitement. So in a tarot reading, for example, your focus would leave you and go to the contents of the reading or the person you're reading for or the tarot card or the messages that are coming through or the whole process. And when you do that, you develop a momentum with the intuitive messages and you actually kind of start to co-create with the messages. Sometimes tarot readers are afraid that they're projecting, and the reason why they're afraid of that is because in a sense, they are a little bit, not in the purely psychological sense of projection, but in the sense that they are co-creating the intuitive message. That is because the intuition sits very close to the creative life force. The intuition is here and the creative life force is here. But before I scare you away with complex Kabbalistic associations, let's go back. Let's return to our list and go to number 4. Number 4 is an interesting one. It's again, not so much a mistake and more a habit that people can shift to make their readings better. And it has to do with intuition. It is kind of possible to be too intuitive. I know that sounds ironic. Let me explain. So I work with a lot of students, and I have students regularly coming into Tarot Mysticism Academy. And one of the things that people have a challenge with is actually being too intuitive, too off of the physical plane, a little bit either too out of their body or not knowing how to bring that information into their body, into the ground, into the physical experience, into the moment. And usually when that's the case, it's somebody who's very psychic, very sensitive, and is on a journey of learning to harness that talent. A lot of people come to me that are extremely intuitive because I teach a lot of the intellectual sides of tarot. And having that intellectual structure can be a funnel that organizes the natural intuitive talent into a more solid practice. Now, there is a balance with this because it is possible to think you're extremely intuitive, but actually just be out of your damn mind. And it's totally cool. We've all been there before. I'll tell you a funny story real quick. I went to a New Age shop once, and there was a super kind woman there. She was so sweet. And she was asking me, oh, what are you looking for? And before I could say anything, she was like, oh, wait, let me find out intuitively. And I was like, uh-oh, here we go. So she kind of leads me around the store and she's like following her hands and then she's picking up books and touching the books and I guess getting the information from the books. And she pulls up a book, pulls out a book, and it's a book on light and the importance of light going in or something. And she's like, this book is about light and the use of light. And maybe this is what you're meant to have. And I was like, oh, thank you. Not what I'm looking for, but thank you anyway. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe she was using her intuition, and maybe I was meant to get that book. I do think it's possible for people to be way too in the clouds. And let's be honest, if you're into tarot and if you're following a crazy dude like me, you probably could use some grounding too. Maybe not, maybe not. But anyway, one way to ground in your tarot practice is to be more in your body, be more present with your sensations. And I would even add, enjoy your sensations. Like, that's why shuffling the cards is so important. It's because you are opening up these other centers, and you are opening up your awareness to other influences and in your abilities, but you're also, in the body as well. When I was reading at the New York Renaissance Fair, I was a little bit like hovering out of my head for some of the readings and kind of just going into this dream world. And my readings were still amazing, but I was kind of exhausted afterwards. And so my mentor taught me how to be more in my body and more grounded in the tarot reading process without kind of, dissolving into the reverie of the reading. Now, I have a strong Pisces placement, and we kind of like that sort of thing, but my Capricorn stellium really buffed up and was like, all right, get back in your body. One other thing I'll say about using intuition for tarot, I am all for it. And I'm constantly helping my students grow their intuition and practice. And that's very important. But if you just want to focus on intuition, that's fine. But that's not necessarily tarot reading. Tarot is a structure, it is a tradition, and it is a very unique confluence of other traditions and mystical philosophies that make it what it is. It is a tool to access intuition and other things. But if you're just using intuition and not incorporating the tarot, just don't call it tarot, just call it intuitive readings. And that's totally fine. But the truth is, you can't just pick up a tarot deck, think you have a great intuition, and think you're a tarot master. That's not how it works. Especially for the deeper aspects of tarot, the deeper philosophy that points to spiritual work that transcends tarot reading, you need to study. I mean, my curriculum at the time of this video is 2 years long, but every year it grows even longer and longer because there's always more stuff to add and more things to go into in detail and more things to break down. Tarot is a lifelong study, and intuition is part of that journey. Now, that brings me to my final mistake and how to correct it, which is being too intellectual. Yep, we're going to go right into the opposite. So there's being too intuitive, but then there's being too intellectual. Now, I love the intellectual side of tarot. I think it brings about some of the most profound transformations. Simply studying the intellectual knowledge that behind the tarot symbolism will change you. It'll change if you know how to incorporate it and you know how to actually harness it and integrate it through practice that transcends tarot reading. It'll transform your world. But you have to incorporate it. You have to integrate it. If you just study the ideas, all you've got is a bunch of really cool ideas. And when you're reading tarot, you could pull a bunch of cards and intellectualize it and riff off various, card meanings and symbols and history and associations and archetypes, and that can be cool. But if they're not flowing through you, if you're not participating in that knowledge, if you're not engaging and dancing with that symbolism, with those associations, with those meanings and references, and if you're not part of that groove, it's just going to be dry and boring and awkward. And maybe slightly impressive, but still, you need the flow, you need the juice, and that's where the intuition comes in. So I'll get a lot of students coming into Tarot Mysticism Academy that are brilliant, like super intellectual, people that are very high-ranking members of some very interesting and impressive esoteric societies and fraternities that are extremely intellectual and very impressive and has lots of lore and things to study. But the reason why they come to me is because they are looking to use that material. They want to learn how to actually use it in their life, in their growth, and for themselves to help others. And using the ideas is a totally different thing than knowing the ideas. I'll tell you this, and I've probably told it to you before. Before I met my spiritual mentor, I knew so much stuff. I had read so many books, and I was a great tarot reader. But it wasn't until my teacher helped me integrate this knowledge in an actual life that I started seeing the big transformations. And this is what I wish for the spiritual community at large and the tarot community especially. There's so much fun stuff out there that's fun to read and fun to learn, but it's only an idea until you actually start using it and practicing it. And here's the cold hard truth. The truth is you're not going to learn something in a day. You're not going to learn something in a couple months. These spiritual teachings, whether it's through tarot or mysticism or energy work or meditation or yoga or whatever path you're on, these are lifelong studies. You don't just learn them and then your life gets better. Your life will get better if you practice them over time and commit yourself to that growth. I know I'm speaking on social media, which is the nexus of all instant gratification, but truly, if you want to benefit from the deeper rewards of this work, you need to devote yourself to some consistent practice and study. That's why my curriculum is years long. I don't play around. I don't want to offer you a shiny thing that's going to distract you from the shit that you really want to deal with. When you work with tarot mysticism, you're dealing with the shit and growing, and the rewards are endless. And if you saw me years ago, you wouldn't even recognize me. I can tell you all sorts of transformations in my life and the lives of my students and beyond. But yeah, if you're looking for something more serious, if you're looking to take your tarot practice to the next level and really study this deeper knowledge, I would recommend the Master Curriculum at Tarot Mysticism Academy. It covers multiple courses, multiple mystical traditions, healing, practice, and more, and the best online community of tarot enthusiasts and mystical misfits. For more details on the curriculum, hit the link in the bio and let me know if you have any questions. So put in the comments below, what do you think are the biggest tarot mistakes and how to correct them? Remember, this is all just my BS, my belief system. We've all got one, but thanks for sticking around. I look forward to seeing you in the next wormhole. Much love.